All right, y'all. So like I said, 2.1. Now let me let one in real quick. All right, so 2.1 deals with graphing. And we're looking at the X and Y coordinate system now. So let's draw a graph so we can learn about it. So we're going to look at the X and Y coordinate system. All right, so first I got the horizontal line here is my X-axis. In the X-axis, starting in the center, this center here, if you go right, the X-axis is positive. So I'm just going to go out, I'll go out about 8 on mine. So to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It gets more positive as it heads to the right. Remember, as it goes out to the right, it's headed towards positive infinity. And then to the left, it gets more negative as it heads out towards negative infinity. So from the center, you got -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and so on. But y'all, we've already plotted on the X-axis in the last test. So now we got a vertical axis. This is the Y-axis. In the Y-axis, starting from the center here, is positive going up. So starting from the center, and we call this center the origin. So going up on the Y-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. As it goes up on the Y-axis, it's headed towards positive infinity. And then if we go down on the Y-axis, we get more negative. So -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and so on. And it heads towards negative infinity, heading down. So the center right here is the 0 point on both of these lines. So y'all, when you plot points, they come in the form of what we call ordered pairs. Ordered pairs will have an X value and a Y value. The X value tells me whether I'm going left or right. So if my X is negative, I'm going to go left on the X-axis. If my X value is positive, I'm going to go right on the X-axis. Now my Y value tells me how far I'm going to go up or down. So the Y value, if it's positive, I'm going to go uphill or up. And if it's negative, I'm going to come down. So what I do to plot points, we plot the X value first, or we move to that X value on the X-axis. So the first thing you do when you plot ordered pairs, move to the X value on the X-axis. Now, I'm not going to put a point yet because I got to see what my Y value wants me to do. So to get that Y value, once I've moved on the X-axis to that X value that I needed, from there, so from the point on the X-axis, we move up or down according to the Y-axis, according to the Y value. So I'm going to move my X-axis, move up or down on the Y-axis. Third thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put a point where I land. So this center of this graph right here, that center is called the origin. And the origin's coordinates are 0, 0. When you're in that center, the x value is 0 and the y value is 0. Okay. So y'all, what I'm going to do over here, we're going to plot a few points in here. So we're going to plot, and I'll label the points as I plot them. So A is going to be 4, 1. B, we'll plot that point will be -5, 2. My point C will be 0, -2. And then my point D will be 3, -2. Okay, so we're going to plot these 4 points. Now, let me tell you something else about these graphs. They're broken into 4 sections, and we call this the first quadrant in the top right. For a point to be in the first quadrant, both of those numbers have to be positive. You're going to have a positive x and a positive y to be in the first coordinate. Over here is the second quadrant. To be in the second quadrant, your x will be negative and the y will be positive. So the x's are negative and the y's are positive. See, they go counterclockwise. Down here is my third quadrant. This bottom left side is a third quadrant. For a point to be in the third quadrant, the x's are negative and the y's are negative. And then finally, y'all, we got our fourth quadrant over here, bottom right. For a point to be in the fourth quadrant, the x's are positive and the y values are negative. Okay, so I want to plot this point 4, 1, and we'll label that as A. So both of these numbers are positive. So that means it should end up in this first quadrant somewhere, since both of these are positive. So let's plot this first point. Starting in the center, the x value is 4. So we're going to slide on the x-axis till we get to that 4. So we're not putting a point yet. We're just resting here for a second. So then we look at the y value. My y value is a positive 1. So from that 4, I'm going to go up 1 in the y direction. And I have my first point there, and that'll be A. Okay, y'all, so right 4, up 1. Second point is a -5, positive 2. Well, look, second quadrant has a negative x and a positive y. So that means our second point needs to land up in this second quadrant somewhere. So we got a -5 for the x. So since my x is -5, I'm going to start at the center and go left till I get to my -5 on the x-axis. Now, my y value is a positive 2. So starting at that -5, I'm going to go up 2 units in the positive direction and put my second point. So notice, if I was to draw a vertical line, it would hit -5. If I was to draw a horizontal line, it would hit my positive 2. So that point will be B. All right, so C is a little tricky because C has a 0 for the x and a -2 for the y value. So we're on the x-axis in the center. Well, y'all, that center is where the X value is 0 at. So we do not move left and right on this one. We stay in the center. And then we look at that Y value, which is -2. So starting from the center, we would go down 2 lines until we got to -2 on that Y-axis. And that'll be our point C. So if the first number is 0 for the X, your point is going to land on that Y-axis, okay? All right, my fourth point is a +3, -2. Well, y'all, that'd be down here in quadrant 4, positive X and a negative Y. All right, y'all, let me see what my chat's saying. Oh, so they got me. Z does go into quadrant 4. Good job. So let's see, Zion, we would do what? Go right 3 on the X-axis and then go down 2. So from 3, we're going to go down 2. Then we'll have our point D. All right, y'all, so that's a trick on plotting points. Now, I didn't have one in the third quadrant. So let me just do 2 more real quick. How about a -2, -3? And then let me do a point F, which is 4, 0. That way I can get you one on the X line and then one in the third quadrant here. So this is both negative. They're both going definitely in the third quadrant. So we're going to go left over here to -2 and then down 3. So that'd be 1, 2, down 3 would put me about right here. That would be our point E. Now look at F. It's another one with a 0, but this time the Y value is 0. So watch what happens on that. So my X value is 4. So I would start and go right till I hit 4. But y'all, since the Y value is 0, that means you would stay there on that line and have your point F. So if the first number is 0, your point will end up on the Y-axis. If the second number is 0, you're going to end up on the X-axis. All right, y'all. So I wanted to show y'all how you're going to do this on MathLab. Well, actually, MathLab, they'll have a, I'll show you how they're doing it. Let me find my share. All right, let me let one in real quick. So in MathLab, they're going to give you the 4 points, and you got to match which one of these graphs has your points correct. So let's look and see which one has the A right. So I'm going to make these a little bit bigger for us. Let me try that one more time. There we go. So let's start with A. A is 3, 1. So I'm going to look at answer A. It looks like if you went over 3 and up 1, they got the A in the right position. So since the A is in the right position on that, I'm going to check B, which is -8, 2. So starting the center, if I went left 8, up 2, B looks like it's correct. C has 6, 0. Which means if I went right 6, I stay on the line since the Y value is 0. So they got C right, and then D was 5, -2. So if I go right 5 and down 2, D is in the right place. So y'all let me zoom A up. A had all my points in the right spot. But if it would have been wrong on any of those, I'd have checked B. And then I'd have checked C, and then I'd have checked D. But usually there's only going to be one correct with the A. So once you get the A correct, you can find those other 3 points on there, okay? And y'all, here's another thing about ordered pairs. ordered pairs are solutions to the equation of a line. So what that means, when we plug in the X and Y values, then we must get a true statement. So when I plug my X and Y values into the equation, a true statement means I'll end up with something like 5 equals 5, 7 equals 7, or something like that, okay? If I get a false statement, then that means the ordered pair is not a solution to my equation. So every ordered pair or every point on a line is a solution to that equation, okay? So on these questions, they want to determine whether the given point is a solution of the equation. So I'm going to do a couple of these. So for my first example, they're giving me -2, -13 for my ordered pair. And then a semicolon separating my equation, which is y equals 5x minus 3. So remember the ordered pair here. The first number is your X. The second number is your Y value. So we're going to plug in the -13 for the Y. So that's going to give me -13 is going to equal 5 times X, which is -2, minus 3. So we can't do nothing on the left side, so that's going to stay -13. So on the right side, we got to multiply before we subtract. So 5 times -2 is a -10. Bring down my -3. So y'all, I end up with -13 on the left side. -10 minus 3 is also -13. So since this is true, that means yes, -2, -13 is a solution. All right, so watch how MATLAB does this question. So they make you answer more parts on it. So let's see, that was what would be y'all's question 2. So let's see if this one's a solution. So we got a -2, -12 for our point. The equation is y equals 4x minus 2. So we'll work that, then we're going to come in and answer this, okay? All right, y'all, so remember the -2 is for the X, -12 is for the Y. So let's plug that in. That's going to give us -12 equals 4 times the X, which is -2, minus 2. All right, y'all, let's see. That brings down -12. Can't do nothing over there. On the right side, 4 times -2 is -8. Bring down that -2. And y'all look at this one. This one gives me -12 equals -8 minus 2 is a -10. So this one's false. So this would mean no. -2, -12 is not a solution. So let's show you how you're going to put that in MATLAB. So we said that is not a solution. So you're going to click the first one and say it's not a solution because when blank is substituted for the x, well, that's -2. And blank is substituted for the y, well, that was a -12. The result is a false equation. So you just got to come in and put in the x value, the y value, and tell why was it not a solution. And that was because it was false on us, okay? So then it makes you check your answer and move to the next one. So I'm going to try one more of these. So let me write these points down here. So I got a 0 and a 2/5. And our equation is 3a plus 5b equals 2. So y'all, I don't have x's and y's. I got a's and b's. But guess what? These coordinates are always in alphabetical order. So the 0 will be the A, the 2/5 will be the B. So always go in alphabetical order on these. So what we're going to do is plug our numbers in. So we got 3 times A, which is 0, plus 5 times that 2/5. That has to equal 2. We all look here, 3 times 0, that's a big 0. Plus, now remember, anytime you got a 5 and you're multiplying by a fraction with a 5 in the denominator, these 5s cancel basically by dividing. So 5 divided by 5 makes that a 1. So now you got 1 times 2, which is 2. And all that has to equal a positive 2. Well, y'all look at that. 0 plus 2 is 2. So we get 2 equals 2, which is a true equation. So it's going to ask us what we plugged in for the A, what we plugged in for the B, and then whether we thought that was true or false. So we said it was true, so that's going to be it is a solution. Because when 0 was put in for the A and 2/5 is put in for the B, the result is a true solution. All right, y'all, questions on that stuff? All righty, so guess what? Now we're actually going to learn how to graph an equation. Okay, so we're looking at things that look like this, and I'll explain what we got. Y equals mx plus b. So if there's a number in front of the x, that little m, we're going to learn later that that is the slope of these lines. This b at the end, we're going to learn later that that is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is the y value where it crosses over the y-axis, okay? But this is a general form of an equation. This is called the slope-intercept form of a line. So this is the slope-intercept form of a line. And usually when I graph, I try to get it solved like this is. Get that y by itself equal to the rest of it, okay? So to graph a line, I'm going to set up a table. And y'all, my table will be an X and a Y table. Once I set up my table, I'm going to pick 2x values. Pick at least 2x values. Because remember, I need at least 2 points to draw me a straight line. So once I pick 2x values, I'm going to plug each x value into the equation. And get the corresponding y value. So I'll plug my first number in for the x, see what I get for the y. I'll take my second number, plug it into that x, see what I get for my y value. Now, once I do that, I'm going to have 2 ordered pairs at least. So I'm going to plot the points. And then finally, draw a line. Okay, so I'm going to find me at least 2 x values, solve for the y values. Once I have that, I will then plot my line. So let's play with this on MathLab. So I'm actually going to go to MathLab and see what they got for their next problem. So let's move that one on. So we did that one. Next question. So notice they want us to graph y equals x plus 7. So let's go work it. Get us a couple points, and then I'll show you how to graph this on MathLab. All right, so I'm going to make up my table. We said I got my x and my y. Now, y'all, me personally, if there's not no fractions in this equation, the 2 easiest numbers I like to use are 0s and 1s. Because that'll make these graphs sort of small. Because remember, you don't want them too big because your graphs only go so many numbers out, okay? But the easiest 2 numbers to add in the world are 0s and 1s. So let's see what y values we get when we plug in our 2 numbers. So y'all, first, we're going to plug in the 0. So I'm going to use the 0 first. So that'll give me y equals 0 plus 7. And y'all, 0 plus 7 is a 7. So when the x is 0, y is 7. So now I'm going to use the 1. So that's going to give me y equals 1 for the x plus 7. And y'all look at that. 1 plus 7 gives me an 8. So my second point would be 1, 8. So remember, this is the first ordered pair. You can treat it like the first ordered pair, and that would be your second ordered pair. But y'all, you can use any 2 numbers you want to, okay? I just, unless I got a fraction myself, I always use 0s and 1s. So watch this. Let's go graph this thing. So what I do is I click on this gray box that says click to enlarge graph. It pulls up another window. So you see the little arrow, that's called the object selection tool. I'm going to go one right over that says line tool. You're going to click on the line tool and start plotting your points. So I'm going to start with 0, 7. So starting in the center, x is 0, so I stay there. The y value is 7, so I'm going to go straight up 7. And it looks like each of these is going by 2s on it. So let me get a little bit. So there's 0, 7, and I'm going to click it. Now notice in that little yellow banner at the top, it shows that my point is 0, 7 on that, okay? Now my second point was 1, 8. So I'm going to start back in the bottom. I'm going to go right 1. So remember, each of these lines is going by 2, so be careful. So I'm going to go right 1 and up 8. So when I go right 1, up 8, there's my second point. I'm going to hit enter. So y'all, we now have our line drawn. So we'll save that. And then you check your answer. But remember, be careful on these because each one of them lines represented moving twice. So I had to get in the middle to get them 1s and 7s, okay? Now let's try another one. This one says graph y equals x. So let's go get some points and see what happens here. So we're going to make an x and y table again. So y'all on this one, give me some points y'all want me to plot. Give me some x values. Oh, y'all are so quiet. Let me see what my chat's saying. So 3 and 6. So I'll do that. I'll put an x is 3 and an x value of 6. So let me use the 3. So when I put a 3 in for the x, I get y equals 3. So I'm going to put me a 3 here. Then I'm going to use the 6. When I put a 6 in for the x, I get y equals 6. So when you got a y equals x graph like this one, no matter what the x is, the y is going to be the same thing. So if I'd have used a 4 and an 8 like Shatia had on there, I'd have put in a 4. That means my y would have been 4. And then if we'd have put an 8 in for the x, we'd have had a y value of 8. So no matter what I put in for the x on this one, I got the same thing for the y values. So let's go plot that. All right, so I'm going to click to enlarge my graph. I'm going to grab that line tool, second tool on the top right. And this one looks like it's going by 1s. So let's go to 3, 3 first. So starting in the center, I'm going to go right 3 and then up 3. So I'm at 3, 3 in the yellow banner. So I'm going to click that. Second point was 6, 6. So I'm going to go right 6 and up 6. And once I get on 6, 6, I'm going to click it. But Shatia, those points you used, 4, 4, if you'd have went right 4 and up 4, it's on that line. And 8, 8, if we'd have went right 8 and up 8, that point is on the line. So all those points y'all gave me are on that line, okay? All right, y'all, so we'll just save that. And then you're going to check your answer and move on. I'm clicking the wrong side, okay. All right, let me move my chat box. This one is a fraction, so let me show you what I would do on that. Y equals 1/2 x. So for me personally, I like to use zeros. Now, this is the only time I wouldn't use a 1 was when I got a fraction. If I want to get rid of that fraction and not have to graph fractions, the second point I always choose is whatever that denominator is. So I'm going to choose a 2. Or you could have chosen a -2, -4, -6, any even number that'll divide by that 2, okay? So watch why I did that. So first, let me use the 0. Y equals 1/2 times 0. Well, y'all, anything times 0 is a 0. So that first point will be 0, 0, which is in my origin. Now, when I use the 2, that'll give me y equals 1/2 times 2. So see the reason I picked that 2? Because these 2's will divide each other out, making that a 1. And 1 times 1 is a 1. So basically, when you cancel out these denominators, all that's left is that top number. So that gives me a y value of 1. So we got 2 points now, 0, 0, and 2, 1. Now, if you'd have used the 1 times 1/2, would have gave you a 1/2, which you can plot it, but some people don't like plotting fractions, so that's why I try to avoid them, okay? All right, so let's go to the math lab. I'm gonna click to enlarge graph, grab my line tool. My first point was 0, 0. Well, y'all, that's in the center here. So I'm at 0, 0, click that. Second point was 2, 1. Now notice these are going by 2s again for each line. So 2, 1 is right 2, up 1. So be careful. You don't go all the way up to the next line because those are going by 2s instead of 1s, okay? So just watch those points as you're moving your cursor around. All right, y'all, then we would check that answer and go to the next. So let me go down and try, let's try, say, number 8, because all these are about the same. So number 8, I got y equals 3x minus 9. All right, so y'all, let's plot some points and see what we want on that. So I'm going to do my x and y table. I'm going to use 0 and 1 again. So let me start out with my 0. If I put a 0 in, I got y equals 3 times 0 minus 9. Well, y'all, 3 times 0 is 0. Bring down that minus 9. 0 minus 9 gives us a negative 9 for that y value. Now I'm going to put the 1 in. That gives me y equals 3 times 1 minus 9. All right, 3 times 1 is 3. Bring down that minus 9. And 3 minus 9 gives us a negative 6. So the y value for when x is 1 is a negative 6. All right, y'all, let me see my chat real quick. Okay, so you're just getting that negative 6 for me. Good job. All right, y'all, the 2 points. Let's go plot them and see what happens. All right, so click to enlarge graph, grab my line tool. We had 0, negative 9. Remember, 0 means it goes straight down, negative 9. And this one's going by 2s also, so be careful. So 0, negative 9 is showing in the yellow banner, so click it. And then I had 1, negative 6. So go right 1 and down 6. All right, let me see. I'm at 1, negative 5. 1, negative 6 now. Woo, that thing's touchy though, so be careful on it, all right? All right, y'all, then you save that and then be done. So let me see here. I think I'm going to do one like number 11 next because it's got a fraction. And then we'll move into the next section. So let me move down to number 11. Oh, that gave me a fraction that time too. So either one would have worked. All right, y'all, let me write this one down. Y equals a negative 3 over 2x minus 3. All righty, y'all. So x and a y. So I'm definitely picking a 0 this time. So y'all, if you paid attention, Walgo, what will my second point probably be that I picked for my x? Oh, good job. It's definitely going to be a 2. Good job. So I'm going to use a 2 from a second point. So first, let me use that 0. That's going to give me y equals negative 3/2 times 0 minus 3. We all negative 3/2 times 0 is 0. So I get 0, bring down to minus 3. 0 minus 3 gives me a negative 3. So are you seeing that when I'm putting zeros in for the x's, basically I'm always getting whatever that last number is, okay? Now let me use that 2. So that'll give us y equals negative 3/2 times our 2 minus 3. We all remember we did that so that them 2's will cancel, making a 1. So basically that negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Bring down to minus 3. So see, I got rid of the fraction. Basically, it was left with all that was left was that top. And y'all look at there, negative 3. Ooh, watch out, Zion, because remember, negative 3 minus 3 is going to be what? A negative 6. Because remember, my signs aren't opposite, so I won't get a 0 on that. And y'all remember also, when you add 2 negatives, it's going to stay negative, okay? So when that's a 2, you're going to get a negative 6. Think about it like this, y'all. You was in the hole $3. You went in the hole another $3. You're in the hole $6, okay? All right, y'all, let's go graph that one. So we're going to click to enlarge our graph. Grab our line tool. So my first point was 0, negative 3. So this one's going by ones again. So 0, negative 3. Click that. And then we had 2, negative 6. So I'm going to go right 2 and down 6. All right, there's, whoops, right there's 2, negative 6. Click that and be done. Ooh, my hands get a little shaky on that math lab sometimes. All righty, so I lied. There was one more I wanted to do. So let me go to number 10. And y'all, the reason I wanted to do this one, because they're out of order. You got an x plus y equals negative 4. So I'm going to go work that one first. So the trick on this one, I need to get this y by itself. Once I got the y by itself, I'm going to start plugging in numbers for my x's and seeing what I get. So to get the y by itself, this x over here is being added to the y. So remember, if I want to move something from one side to the other, I add the opposite. And I'm going to add the opposite to both sides. So notice these x's cancel. I'm left with my y equals. Now, if you want it in this form, y equals mx plus b, we would bring the x down first and then the number. So I'm just going to bring the negative x and then minus the 4. That way you're in this order, but y'all, it don't matter. You can do negative 4 minus x. What you can't do is add those because they're not like terms, okay? So here's my equation now. So y'all, I'm still going to use 0 for the x, and I'll use a 1. So let me use the 0. That'll be y equals a negative times 0 minus 4. Well, remember, we treat a negative like a negative 1, and negative 1 times 0 is still a 0. Bring down my minus 4. So once again, I get a negative 4. So remember, once I put a 0 in for the x's, I'm always going to get whatever that last number was. Now, let's use a 1. Now, what kills people on this one, that negative, you see that negative is in this formula. So write down that negative and then put in your x, which is 1, and then subtract 4. Just because you're putting in a positive x, that don't get rid of that negative, okay? You got to put the negative there when you first start. So that negative times that positive 1 makes that a -1 minus 4. And remember, -1 minus 4 is a -5. So when x is 1, y is a -5. Now, y'all, let me just show y'all an extra point. Say we picked -1. So if I was using a -1, I would have y equals, bring that negative down, put your x in, which is -1, and then -4. So y'all, what happens here? You got a negative times a -1. So remember, you're multiplying two negatives. What sign will that be? Oh, I'm not seeing my chat. Maybe it's delaying us. All right, so I'm not seeing my chat light up, but remember, negative times a negative is going to make that a +1, and then bring down your -4, and then 1 minus 4 gives you a -3. All right, Monica, it finally went through. I see the positive now. Good job. I think I'm getting a little delay on my end. All right, so I'm going to plot that 0, -4, 1, -5. All right, so I'm going to click to enlarge my graph. Grab my line tool. Looks like these are going by ones on this one. So my first point was 0. And then go down to -4. Click that. My second point was 1, -5. So go right 1 on the x-axis and down 5. So I got my 1, -5. Now notice that other point over here when I did -1, -3, I could have used that point because it's still on that line there. So it don't matter what 2 points we pick as long as they are on that line, okay? All right, y'all save that, and then you're going to check that answer. So that's basically 2.1, and it's your first introduction to graphing. All right, y'all, questions on that section? All right, then we're going to start learning about section 2.2 and 2.3 are together. And we'll go as far as we can on this section till 7:30, okay? So this will be 2.2 and 2.3, and they're mainly about domain and range and functions. And let me get my camera just a little bit more up there. All right, so domain and range. So let's learn about what domain and range are.
That's why you not.
I hear you. What's the question? Oh, I thought I heard a question. All right, y'all. So the domain is the set of all x values. So it's going to be the set of all my x values, okay? My range is going to be the set of all y values. But here's the thing about this domain. For a number to be included in the domain it must produce a real number when substituted into the equation. All right, one got knocked off. Let me put her back in real quick. Okay, I got you, Shatil. You're in now. All righty. So my domain has to be numbers that I can plug into my equation and get a real number out of it. The range will be the set of all those y values. So let me give y'all a real world example. A real world example of y'all doing domain and range stuff would be if you work a job and you get paid by the hour. Your domain will be all the hours that you work. Okay. Your range is going to be all the values of your paychecks. So if you work 40 hours, your paycheck will be a certain Y value. If you work 20 hours, your paycheck will be a certain Y value. So notice that those range values depend on those domain values, okay? So we often call the domain the independent variable. And we call the range the dependent variable. Because like I said on the paychecks, you can work any amount of hours you want to. So you're independent to work ever how many hours you want to. You might have been sick one week or something. But your pay depended on how many of those hours you worked, okay? Now, the last new word of the day before we start again is function. So a function, like if I was doing your paychecks, your function would be the amount of pay. Your amount of pay depends on what you're getting paid an hour times how many hours you worked. So to be a good function, a function is a correspondence in which each x value, which is my domain, each x value has one and only one y value, which is my ranges. So what I mean by function, would it be a good function if you worked 40 hours and your boss had a choice between giving you two different amounts of pay? No, we want a function to be, if I work 40 hours, I put 40 hours into that function and I get one set amount out for my pay. So this means that the x's or the x values cannot have a choice. That means my x values can only correspond to one y value. Now, more than one x value can share the same range value. That would be like if you ever heard of salary pay. Salary pay, if someone makes $500 a week, it don't matter how many hours they work, they're going to make $500, okay? So let me start out with this example. We're going to determine if the correspondence is a function or not. So they're giving me a domain. Now this one's going to sort of be like a little chart. They got the domain here. For my domain, they got 24, 13, and 17. Now over here is the range. And from a range, they got 7 and 2. So y'all, the 24 points to the 7. The 13 points to the 2. The 17 points to the 7. So the question of the day, is this a function? All right, so let me pull that chat back up. So y'all read what we said. If it's a function, each x value has one and only one y value. Oh, so let's look at this one, Zion. Look at this 24. I got a 24. How many range values does it have? We are at 24 only plots to one range value of 7. So the 24 is good. Now look at the 13. The 13 only goes to one range value of 2. So the 13 is good. Now look at the 17. The 17 only points to one range value. So although I got 3 domains and 2 ranges, this is definitely a function because these x's don't have no choices. They've only got one y value. So on one like this, you're going to have to put yes. So y'all, let me do another one of those. Domain and range. So I'm going to do 7, 21, -8. All right. Over here for my ranges, -3, 0, 5, and 7. So let's see what y'all say on this. The 7 goes to the -3. 21 goes to the 0, but 21 also goes to the 5. And then the -8 goes to the 7. All right, y'all. Is this correspondence a function? So this one is definitely a no. Good job. And y'all, the reason it's a no on this one is because this x value 21, the 21 is pointing to 2 different range values. So good job. That is definitely a no. So remember, focus on the domain values, not the range. And look at your domain values and make sure they're only plotting to one range value, okay? Because if they plot to more than one like that 21 did, then it's definitely a no. All right, y'all, let me get this back up. All right, y'all, so you'll have a few pictures like I just did, dealing with the range. So now let's look at what we call function notation. Function notation is the f of x stuff. So this f of x, it could be a g of x, t of x, it could be anything. Usually in math, we use f of x's, but when you hit the science classes, or finance, like I was doing that paycheck stuff a while ago, they might call that a p of x to represent your pay, okay? So this is function notation. So the thing about this, if a number is given in place of the x, then we plug that number into the equation. And so I'm going to plug these numbers into the equations and then perform order of operations. Now, the f of x is just symbolism, letting me know I got a function. So I don't do nothing with that f of x stuff. I only work the right side of the equation. When I put the x value in, I'm going to work that, see what I get. So this is just shorthand for math. Instead of me saying, hey, go put a -2 in for that x and evaluate that function, I can say, hey, find me f of -2. If I put a -2 there, that's telling you to put that -2 into your equation, okay? So watch this example. Given the function k, described by k of x equals x plus 20. So k of x is letting me know I got a function, and the function is I'm going to take whatever x I get, add 20 to it. They want us to find each of the following. So they want us to find a k of 0, a k of a -8, a k of a -10, a k of a 14, and then a k of a y plus 11. So they're getting sort of tricky on this one. But y'all, here's the thing. This is almost like doing 1, 2, 3, 4. It's almost like doing 5 little problems in one. So let's start off with the k of 0. K of 0 is going to equal this equation, x plus 20. But in place of the x, we're going to put this 0 they told us. So we're going to have 0 plus 20. And remember, we don't do nothing with this k of 0. All we're going to do is figure out what 0 plus 20 equals. Well, y'all, 0 plus 20 is 20. So my first answer, k of 0 equals 20. Then we're going to do k of -8. K of -8 is going to equal this equation, but we're going to put a -8 in for that x. So that's going to give me a -8 plus 20. All right, so unlike signs, subtract the numbers and get the sign of the larger number. So 20 minus 8 is 12. Larger number is positive. So that's going to be a positive 12. All right, what's next, y'all? K of -10. K of -10 will equal, put a -10 in for that x. So we're going to have -10 plus 20. Y'all, unlike signs, subtract and get the sign of the larger number. 20 minus 10 is 10. Larger number is positive. So that's going to stay a positive 10. All right, y'all, what I got left? K of 14 is next. So take that equation, put a 14 in for that x. So that's going to give me 14 plus 20. Like signs, add and keep that sign. So 14 and 20 is going to give you 34. Both of those were positive, so that answer will stay positive. But y'all, look at this. They throwing us a curveball now. I got k of y plus 11. So y'all, here's the question. What am I going to put in for the x on that one? On y'all, let me see. I got a y plus 11 sitting here. All right, y'all. So let me give y'all a little help. Since they got a y plus 11 in these parentheses, we're going to have to put this y plus 11 in for that x. So this will be y plus 11 plus my 20. So if they give you a variable and a number, they both go in for the x. And then you still have your plus 20 at the end. So y'all, here's the thing. Can I go further with this right side on that one? And if I can, what would I get? Okay, so I see a 31. And also we got what? In the front, we couldn't do nothing with the y, so we're going to bring the y down. And then all we're doing is adding those like terms together. So that's going to give us a positive 31. So shunted, that's a good job. Y plus 31, perfect. All right, y'all, let me try another example doing that. So the same thing here. We're given this time k of x equals 5x. This time they want us to find k of negative 20, k of 14, and k of 33. So there's a little nicer this time. They didn't throw no variables at us up here. We got all numbers to put in. So let's start with k of negative 20. But now notice everything I put in for the x is going to multiply by the 5. So we got our 5, put in our negative 20 for the x. All right, so that's unlike signs. So unlike signs is going to end up negative. Ooh, and let me see what y'all got. Negative 100, good job. All right, let's do k of 14. All right, so that'll be our 5 times our x, which is 14. All right, y'all, let's see what y'all got up there. 70, that's good. 5 times 14 is 70. So if you're doing it by hand, that's pretty good, because when I was in school in Arkansas, we always quit at 12 times 12. We never did our 14s. All right, y'all, last one, k of 33. That's going to equal our 5 times our x, which is 33. All right, what y'all get on that? Looks like what, 165? Good job. You know, that's the trick on these. I'm going to give you a function. I'm going to put a number in here for those x's. Throw that number into the equation. Simplify it by order of operations, and then be done with those. All righty, so the next one, we're going to go back to Math Lab again, because these next ones got some graphs they're doing. So let me pull up my Math Lab for us. And actually, I need to pull up a different section. This is what, 2.2 and 2.3. So let me get our 2.2 and 2.3 ready for me to preview with us. All right, and then I'm looking at number 6. All right, y'all. So let me see which one's got what I want. All righty, so let me make this a little bigger for us on the graph so y'all can see this. So y'all, they want us to use this graph to find the following. So f of 1, when they ask us what f of 1 is, That means which y value corresponds to an x value of 1. So you're going to find 1 on the x-axis and go straight up and hit that line. So y'all, if you was at 1 on the x-axis and went up 1, what would the y value be where you hit the line? So y'all, let's see. I'm going to go right 1. And y'all look at that. If I go straight up 1, I hit the line at a y value of 1. Are y'all with me on that? All right, so we're good on that one. So you're going to check the answer. Now this one has like 3 or 4 parts. Watch this. What's the correct domain? So what's the smallest x value? What's the largest x value? And y'all, here's the thing. Since they're using hollow dots, the hollow dots are the same thing as parentheses. So the hollow dots do not have any equals. If the dots were solid, then I would use the equals. So let's look at the left point on this. If you go straight down, what's that x value? All right, y'all, so I'm going to, okay, so I got a -3, perfect. If you go straight down, you got a -3. Now the point on the right, if you go up to the x-axis, what's the point on the right correspond to? So that is a 5. So we got -3 to 5 is our domain. So let's see. We would go with C on that one because it starts at -3 and it ends at +5. So y'all, what you do on that, you would check that answer. So now here's a trick. On this one, they're saying what x values such that f of x equals 1. So what that means is at what x values do you have a y value of 1? See, this time they're not putting the 1 in the parentheses where the x is. They're saying it has to equal 1. Well, when they do that, they're giving you that y value of 1. So go to 1 on the y-axis and go over till you hit that line. Once you hit that line, go straight down and tell me that x value. And that is definitely a 1. And if you look down here, they got an A, B, and C. So we're going to pick C for 1. And then you're going to check that answer. Then finally, they're going to ask you the range. So the range will go from the smallest number on the bottom until you hit the top y value on the top of this. So look at the bottom point there. Go all the way left and tell me what that y value is. Because y'all remember the range is all those y values. So definitely a -2 for the left side. So go all the way up to the top point and see what that y value is. So that's 4. So we need something between -2 and 4. So let's see, -2 and 4 would be A. Now notice when they did the domain, they use x's. Look here, for the range, they got y's there because we're talking about our y values. So y'all, we check that answer and we're going to do the next one. So the next one is really similar. So I'm going to break open the, let me make that larger. All righty, y'all. So the first thing I want to know, what is f of -2? So what y value has the x value of -2? All right, so remember, they're giving me the x value, so I'm going to go over here to -2, and then I'm going to drop straight down until I hit that line. And that looks good. That looks like a -4, so good job. So let's put in our -4. So y'all, what is the domain? Now this one's tricky because these arrows go on forever and ever and ever. The bottom of this graph will keep sort of going left and down. The top side is going to keep going up and right. So what are y'all picking? A, B, C, or D? Oh, you're so close. So it does go to -infinity on the left side of the graph, but notice my right side is headed up to the right towards positive infinity. So when the domain comes from -infinity to positive infinity, we say it is what? All real numbers. There you go. So it's going to be B on that. So remember, if you got arrows going both directions, all real numbers. So watch this. We check that answer. It's going to make us go to the next one. Now, y'all, let me pull my chat over a little bit. Whoops. So, which x values such that f of x equals -1? So what x values have a y value of -1? So y'all, I'm going to go to the y-axis and find that -1. Then I'm going to go left until I hit that line. So when I hit that line, what is that x value? All right, y'all, let me catch my chat back up. So -1, good job. So we're going to put in our -1. And then we're going to check that answer. So guess what? It wants to range. So y'all remember, what are we going to pick? This graph goes down forever. It goes up forever. So would y'all pick A, B, C, or D? So let me see. Y'all got a B popping up. Let me see what B is. Once again, all real numbers. Good job. So yeah, definitely B, all real numbers. So you check that answer, and then you're done. So y'all, I'm going to go back to my pad, and we're going to finish out. There's only 3 more questions that deals with domain. So now we're going to look at the domain of a function. So remember, the domain is all x values that make this function true or result in a real number. So the domain of a function is all real numbers unless, so remember, unless we have a fraction. So if I have a fraction, so let me ask you all this. If I had, say, 2 divided by 0, what does 2 divided by 0 equal? Can I do that? Can I divide 2 by 0? No, we cannot divide 2 by 0. That results in what we call undefined. And remember, undefined is not a real number. We can't plot something that's undefined. So that's why a domain of a function is all real numbers unless we have a fraction. If we have a fraction, we must exclude any numbers that make the 0, that make the denominator equal 0. Now, we don't care about the top. You can do 0 divided by 2. 0 divided by 2 is 0. But what we can't do is take the 2 and divide by the 0 on the bottom, okay? So remember, the domain is going to be all real numbers unless we have a fraction. So y'all watch this. I'm going to show you all these last 3 on MathLab. Remember, all I'm worried about are fractions. Well, guess what? They gave us a fraction. So they're giving us f of x equals 12 divided by x plus 9. So let me go to the pad and show you what I'm going to do to that. So what, and that's the only thing I was worried about was this fraction, right? So the fraction, this bottom part of this fraction cannot equal 0. So to find what numbers make that happen, I'm going to set x plus 9 equal to 0. Whatever answer I get when I solve that, we're going to kick it out of our domain. So y'all, one move, get that x by itself. What y'all doing? Okay, so good. You subtract a 9 from both sides. So bring down the x. Those cancel. And 0 minus 9 is a negative 9. So if I put a negative 9 in here, negative 9 plus 9 is 0. 12 divided by 0 is undefined. So we got to kick this negative 9 out of our domain. So our answer will be something like this. X such that x is a real number. And x cannot equal, what do we get? Negative 9. And y'all watch this. Let's go to MathLab. And notice they'll have the answers. So we didn't get 2 numbers. We only got the negative 9. And the only one that corresponds to kicking out a negative 9 would be A. So y'all would check that answer. All right, y'all, so let me pull up my chart on my chat again. So let me ask y'all this. What is the domain of this function? A, B, C, or D? What are y'all going with? And the question I would ask y'all on this one, do y'all see a fraction there? We got P of X equals 2x minus 5. Do we have a fraction? No. So we do not have a fraction. So remember what we said a while ago. The domain of a function is all real numbers unless we have a fraction. So A, B, C, or D. Oh, now y'all are popping in. So y'all got a D. So remember, it's all real numbers. So you're going to click D and move on. Because there's no number that I can multiply by 2 by, subtract 5 and make that undefined. Okay? I can multiply any number in the world by 2, subtract 5, and still have a real number. All right, next one's on y'all again. A, B, C, or D. We got P of X equals X squared plus 2. So y'all, okay, I got a D again. Good job, because guess what? I don't see a fraction. So no matter what number y'all give me, I can multiply it times itself and square it, and then I can add 2. So no restrictions on squaring stuff. So we would pick D, check that answer, and move on. All righty, y'all. So similar question. Well, it's going to be the same thing, right? X squared plus 5. What answer would y'all pick? A, B, C, or D? A, good job. So they put the answers out of order on this one, but yeah, it's all real numbers again. So you pick A and then check your answer. So y'all, that's everything up through 2.1 and then the 2.2, 2.3 section, okay? So Friday we'll come in here, do 2.5. It's not that bad. And that'll be our second week of work. All right, y'all, so I'm gonna quit sharing my screen here. So y'all got any questions on stuff? All right, so I'm going to send my video out. Give me about an hour. And remember, last night I sent a video for your test 1 review. It goes through all 25 questions in order, just like your test will be, okay? So remember, test 1 is due Sunday night by midnight. So you can work past due dates on homework and stuff, but the tests are set in stone. So the test has to be done by Sunday night, okay? All righty, y'all. So I'm going to stop our recording.